Hello, and welcome to the Big Money Stylist Podcast, episode number 80.
Damn.
I feel like every time we reach one of those big number, I mean, honestly, it's like every 10. It's like 70, 80, 10 even was really great. We're like, man, we did this for 10 days in a row, or 10 weeks in a row. We're really fucking nailing it. Now we're at 80.
That's insane.
Sweet baby Jesus. I can hardly believe it. So, hi, I'm Ani. I'm the lead trainer of BMS, and this is...
Hi, I'm Krystal. I'm an artist inside of DKW and also the salon manager.
Every time you say artist, I'm like, that is not your title. You're salon manager. You start with that one. I'm technically an artist inside of DKW too, but it's not the title I go with every time. You're so modest and humble, and I'm like, this is what I do. So, like we've been starting off recently, it's stories.
I love the stories.
Which first, how'd you feel after your last podcast?
I felt really good.
Can you please tell everyone what happened? The consultation?
Oh my God. Okay. So I was like, what happened? So the very next day, I do all the consultations inside of DKW. So if you are a client and you're applying to sit in our chair at DKW, you will have a conversation with me before you even step foot inside the door. And so the day after I recorded my first podcast, I was on the phone and I'm like, hi, this is Krystal from DKW. And the client goes, are you Krystal from the podcast? And I was like, yep, that's me.
And just the day before, she's like, it's fine. Nobody really listens to her. And I'm like, no, they listen to her, Krystal. But when I heard that, I could not stop laughing. And I told her, I'm like, welcome to really what Danielle and I face.
Oh, for sure.
Trust me, once it gets to someone saying they want to lick your face when they meet you, it was the most terrifying experience of my life. Especially anyone who knows me knows I don't like being touched.
Yeah.
I'm a toucher purely, this is so selfish based on my terms only. And so when she's like, I just can't wait to meet you, I want to lick your face, I was like, 911, someone help. Call the police.
Yeah, licking face is a little aggressive.
Don't bring any of your bodily fluids anywhere near me. All of that is so disgusting. And I just squeaked so loud. I literally heard it in my ears. I'm sorry. I realize when I get overly excited, my voice just squeaks. So gotta reel that in. But today's story, it's not even so haha. It's just like, oh, fuck.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, it says my most memorable story. A couple of years ago, I was double booked and my first client number 1, behind me processing while I was applying color to client number 2. I noticed that client number 1 was slumped over slightly leaning, and my client number 2 asked me if client number 1 was okay. I went to check her and she was having a seizure.
No.
Yes. I freaked out. Client number 2 was constantly trained at her job to treat people in this condition, so we laid her down on the ground, called 911, and the paramedics took her to the hospital. She's okay, and she still comes to me for color. Melinda from Monrovia, California.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like I'm decent in high pressure situations. Not like that. And honestly, this makes me sound so shitty. I would have assumed she was sleeping. Have a client never fallen asleep in your chair?
No, for sure. How would you assume that something is medically wrong just because people are in the salon, they're relaxing, yesterday, my client had her feet up on the station. She was sinking lower and lower.
It was Bronwyn, wasn't it?
Lower and lower.
We're like, are you asleep or drunk? Bronwyn, which one are you right now?
She was like, I'm just going to take a nap. I'm like, hey, that's totally fine with me because it kept her head a little bit more still than normal.
She's a mover and
Sleep
a shaker.
Away.
And it's one of those things. Oh, you know what we should invent? Okay, this sounds terrible, but you know those
A vice?
neck collars that you get when you have a neck injury? We should invent one of those that just lets them just sit there and slump their head slightly forward and nap.
Yeah, they kind of have them the airplane wrap things. Have you seen those? It's not like the neck pillow, but it's more of a wrap. So you can tell. We need to take that and then tweak it a little bit so their head's upright. They don't move and they can sleep.
It needs to be a mix of the big foam collar things when you have an injury, and when you go see the eye doctor, you have to put your little chin in that rest.
That's right.
With
Yes.
a little forehead thing.
We're on to something.
We're trademarking it, copyrighted right now. Someone get on that quick. Where's our lawyer? Danielle's going to listen to this later and be like, what the hell is wrong with both of them? So
putting our clients in braces.
She's like, DKW has really gone downhill during my maternity leave. Ani and Krystal are out of control. So today's topic is really talking about how you're a failure, which, sounds so harsh. And even Krystal's eyes just bugged out at me a little reel it in. I will never forget my first BMS class. Garrett wrote on the board, he's like, "You're a bitch." And I was like, oh. I was like, oh shit, we're going there. I knew him for like one day at this point, and Danielle's sitting in the back, literally covering her face like, "You can't do that, Garrett." And he's like, "You're a bitch." It was the funniest moment ever. I found it funny. I'm not sure how anyone else listening is going to feel about that. Ooh. But let it be known, he wasn't actually calling me a bitch or anyone else. He's saying you just have to kind of learn to be bitchy sometimes because that protects you. So, failure. Like, Krystal, when you hear of the word failure, like, what is failure to you? Or, like, what are the feelings that come with failure?
There's a few different feelings. I feel like failure can be just not doing anything. It's like, that's failing because you're not even trying. And then also, people always feel like failing is a negative, but sometimes it's just, like, growing, too. I feel like you have to fail to get better. Like, we're never just good at something like right off the bat. And also with failure comes fear.
Oh, there is so much fear attached to failure. So we're currently in the process of training 300 artists for BMS Con 4 in November. Woo. And oh no, so many, some days. And one of them actually posted, she was like, "I'm terrible at NBR. I'm not any good. I've only done 3 rows and I'm fucking awful." And I'm like, yeah, it's because you've only done 3 rows.
Exactly.
I'm like, I'm sorry. What are we ever good at in 3 times? I was garbage at driving even after I had my driver's license. That one was terrible. I mean, think about.
I've driven with you. I don't know that you're great at driving.
Well, okay. Daniel, could we cut that statement from the podcast, please? Look, or technically think of it this way. I'm a good driver. I just have a lead foot and a heavy brake.
Okay.
I mean, but hey, I can swerve in and out like a motherfucker. But I mean, really think about it. Driving or cooking.
Yeah.
I mean, really. Or even foiling hair. Okay, a perm. Why do we still do
perm? I still suck at perms.
pin curls? Why did we have to learn that in school? I barely know what a pin curl is now.
Yeah.
Some days I can't even put my hair in a fucking ponytail. But I'm just saying, like, there's nothing that after 3 times you're good at.
For sure.
You're going to be, honest, a complete failure.
Yeah.
You're going to fail 1,000 times over. And not only that, but failure is going to be different for everybody. Mm-hmm. Like, every single stage of life, failure is going to look like something completely different. And that, to me, it depends on, like, what benchmarks do you have? Exactly. What goals? What values do you have? Like, what is really your belief system? There is a girl inside of Mastermind currently. She came to BMS Con 3 in November. And she messaged me yesterday. She's like, "Ani, I have 47 NBR clients." And I'm like, "That's amazing." She's like, "And I've also lost 80 pounds. Wow. She's like, "I just want to let you know, BMS," she's like, "Mastermind is the best thing I ever did. It's like all encompassing." She's like, "My whole life is different." And I was like, "Wait, I'm sorry." I'm like, "Go back.
Yeah.
You started in November." She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "That was 8 months ago."
Seriously.
She's like, or 7 months ago. She goes, "Yeah." I go, "You got 47 NBR clients in 7 months." She's like, "Oh shit." She goes, "I didn't even think of it like that." I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Like that, things that I hear like that, but how many times did she honestly fuck it up in the beginning?
Right.
And people just forget about that. So why do you think it is that people are so scared of failing or just like not doing something well? Like, what's the fear attached to this?
It must be ego, I feel like.
For sure.
You know, like you once you master something or get good at something and then you're starting something new, it's like, oh shit, I don't want to be a loser. And you just have this pride and ego inside you. Everyone has it. It's like we have been saying, like, you need your ego, but then also your ego hurts you too. Like, it can be the best or it could be the worst part of you. So you need balance with that. But I definitely feel like it's our egos that don't want to fail. And especially like, you know, salon owners or trainers or salon managers or anyone like that. Like, when you have other people looking up to you also, you're like, I don't want to fuck this up. Like, I have all these people eyes on me all the time. So you're like, you have to be the best, or you feel like pressure put on you.
Oh, yeah.
And it's probably mostly from yourself. And so I think those are the 2 biggest: pressure from yourself and your ego.
Do you ever feel like you have pressure being the salon manager?
Oh, 1,000%. Yes.
I feel you. I train everybody, literally everyone
Yeah.
who learns NBR. I train them. And sometimes I'm like, Oh my God, I have to know a lot.
Yes.
I have to know a lot, do a lot, like do everything perfectly. Like I've had that feeling like I'm
sure.
not allowed to fuck up because I'm teaching and training everybody else.
No, I've honestly always thought just being around you and seeing like even when we do classes inside of DKW and how you operate, I think probably the hardest part of your job is knowing why someone is doing something wrong.
Oh,
like you can just look at something and be like, oh, well, you did that. You pulled that too far. You pulled the knot too far off. I'm like, how did she know that? Like, oh my God. Like you just look at one thing and you're like, oh, that you turned your wrist a half a centimeter. I'm like, whoa.
She's measuring me in her head. She's so smart. She's like one of those card counters at the fucking casino. And you know what? But that's honestly come from me fucking it up 1,000 times.
Right.
And I feel that sometimes because I understand, and obviously, like, because I'm the lead trainer in BMS and inside of NBR, especially now with Danielle being on maternity leave, like, it's generally just me, but now it's, like, literally just me.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, like, I have to know it. And I feel like when you're put inside of that pressure cooker, it's one of those things like you either rise or you fucking die. Like you either push through and you're like, yep, this is stressful. I kind of don't know what I'm doing half the time, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Right.
That literally puts you in one of those situations of it's do or die every single time.
For sure.
Which sounds so fucking dramatic. Like, oh, they're saying life is do or die. Well, no, but sometimes you have to put yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
Even like when I was in St. Louis, I worked inside of a salon where I just rented a station. And one day I was like, here's my 2-week notice. I'm leaving and I'm going to go rent a suite. I had no furniture for the suite I was going to rent. I barely had a plan. I was like, here's my 2-week notice.
Yeah,
and
you just have to do it.
It was fucking sink or swim at that point. That was for sure. And I did everything I could to make sure that I didn't sink. And I totally agree with what you're saying. It's so ego driven. And I feel sometimes the more successful you are, the harder it is for you to take any kind of risk because now that fear is 10 times greater.
Exactly.
Like if you already feel like you're at the bottom, sometimes you're like, I really have nothing to lose.
For sure.
Might as well risk it. Once you're either making money or you have a business or you have a family, then you're like, maybe not. I'll just like stay here forever. And not only that, it's a thing of like, well, what will people think of me?
Of course.
What will my friends think? What will my husband think? Will my wife be like, that he's not a man anymore because he couldn't do X, Y, Z? Like there's so many stigmas attached to, quote, like failing at something.
Exactly.
Do you want to hear a crazy fun fact?
Yes.
Did you know that Michael Jordan did not make his high school basketball team because the coach thought he didn't have enough talent?
No, I did not. That's pretty insane.
Fun fucking fact.
Wow.
And in case you don't know who Michael Jordan is, I don't know how you're alive on this earth. He was in the movie Space Jam, which is not his claim to fame, but for me it is. One of the greatest basketball players of all time, and all I know is Space Jam with fucking Bugs Bunny. It's okay. So why? So I mean, really... Sorry, God, I just feel like I need water. I'm like one of those people that's like right into the mic every 5 seconds. But it's amazing how once someone is they don't want to go backwards.
No.
But because they don't want to go backwards, they're not willing to go forward and then they're stuck in the middle.
Yes.
So like what have you found with yourself to kind of take you out of that freeze zone because you left a salon where you were at 14 years?
Yeah.
It's a huge step.
For sure.
To then take on a role that you had not really ever done before in a massive salon. Like, oh my God, the changes you did.
Yes. And I felt like I did kind of have to put myself in that sink or swim situation. And I probably the last 3 years that I was at that old salon, I was very complacent. And that's why I joined Mastermind because I was like, I need something else, like I am done doing someone's root touch up every 3 weeks. Like if I have to do that one more time, like just shoot me, please. Like I can't do this anymore. And just being in the industry for that long. And I had never offered extensions to clients prior to learning NBR because I had always worn extensions and they were all shit. And I'm like, I'm never going to put this on someone else. Like I can barely make my own look good and I'm a stylist. So we're not going to go down that road. So then I was looking for something better for myself and found NBR. I got certified. And then I was like, damn, like
shit works.
Yes. And everybody can wear this. Like even if you have good hair, like your hair could be better. And so I got certified, joined Mastermind, and I think I was just looking for something else to better my career. And then obviously, like, if you don't already know about Mastermind, like, it betters your career, but your life in general. And so I think just stepping out of my comfort zone, like, I was thirsty for more. And even though it was super scary to make that jump, I just knew that, like, I couldn't stay complacent anymore. Like, I was so bored putting someone's root touch up on every 3 weeks. And it was like, that's not, being an artist, like, that's not fun. Like, it's the same formula. Sally Joe doesn't want me to
change. You're not challenged anymore.
Exactly. So I was in a place where I'm like, I have to do more for myself, like, just out of sheer boredom. So don't get me wrong, it wasn't scary as hell to, like, have to make that move. I joined Mastermind in 2017, and at my intensive, like, I remember thinking, like, okay, like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I want to, like, you know, I want to be part of the team. I want to work at DKW. And that was in 2018. But I was still so scared to make that move. Like, I was making changes inside my business in my salon. But I was like, just the fear was holding me back. And then, I don't know. I think I just got to a point where I'm like, fuck it.
Fuck it. We're doing it.
Like, seriously, like, what else? I had nothing else to lose, you know? So yes. I became so complacent in my business that I was like, I'm making a move. And I lived here my whole life. DKW is 6 miles from my house. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like,
you're like, why am I going to a shitty salon I don't even like anymore?
I have no other choice. So, I think, yeah, just being complacent, I was like, I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's so funny. I actually got an email from a girl from BMS Con 4. I'm not going to say her name, where she's from, and there's 300 people. So if this is resonating with you, maybe it was you. I'm kidding. She'll know it's her. But she sent me an email, and she's like, oh, dear God. She's like, I listened to the podcast when you and Danielle did, and when you said, who's holding you hostage? She's like, it sunk me. She goes, it's not a person, it's my whole salon. She's like, I've worked here my entire career. She's like, and it's a fucking shithole salon. Those are her words, not mine. And she even went into mass detail. Okay, I don't want to laugh as I say this, but I'm going to say this. And she was even like, the owner hired a new front desk girl without ever seeing her. And when she came in, she was like missing a front tooth and looked like she was on fucking drugs. And like all of the email was, I don't want to say hysterically terrible, but it's one of those where you're like, it can't get worse. And then you sink a little lower and you're like, it can't get worse. And then you're like, oh my God, it got worse. And then you're like, okay, this is as bad as it gets. And then it just gets a little worse and you're like, oh my God. But she was like, I can't stay here. I don't want to be here. It's a shithole. They don't support me in this. I don't want to like take clients here. I'm embarrassed to come to work. She's like, but I can't leave. What am I thinking? I can't have my own suite. I have no idea what I'm doing. And the email I'm talking was massive.
Yeah.
And I feel that although hers and, you know, toothless homeless people working in the salon, like whatever, she even told me, she's like, the owner even like didn't want to pay someone to redo the bathroom floor in the tile floor in the bathroom. She goes, even though that's like the least of the worries we had. She's like, he did it himself. And then the grout was like falling off 2 days later. Like she goes, he wouldn't even sweep it. He would just push it over to the side. It was terrible. So bad. And she was like, I want to leave. I can't stay, but I can't leave, but I don't want to stay, but I want to go. But what am I going to do? Like it was I could like feel the whirlwind of emotion inside of this email. And I read it, waited a few days, finally emailed back. And I'm like, look, I'm not here to tell you what to do because I can't tell you what to do. So I'm just going to ask you this question. Which one would you regret more? Would you regret most staying inside of the, quote, shithole salon, as she dubbed it, not me?
Yeah.
Would you regret staying inside of the shithole salon, or would you regret leaving and trying? Whether you, quote, made it and you succeeded or failed or whatever, which one would you regret more? I go, that's how you need to base your decision.
Right.
And she emailed me back not very long after. And she's like, you're so right. You always know what to say. I knew all along. I'm like, I told you nothing.
Right.
I let you make your own decision. But I feel like that's how I've looked at everything. I'm like, okay, well, what would I regret more? Even like when I was offered the position here in California as the lead trainer of BMS, I was like, well, oh dear God, I would be giving up all of my clientele, all of my business. I would leave my fiance, not like break up with him, but I would be not in the same state as him. I would leave my family, my friends, my first home that I bought, like my dream home. I'm like, I would be leaving a lot.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, what would I regret more? I was 27 at the time. So let's say 23 years later, I'm 50 years old. I had to do quick math. I'm like, God, let that be right. It's 23 years later. I'm 50 years old. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, I had this opportunity and I didn't take it and I stayed in Missouri. Or would I be sitting there at 50 being like, damn, I can't fucking believe I did that at 27. I was crazy, but look how my life turned out.
Exactly.
And that for me made it the easiest decision in the world. I've never been more scared doing something in my life. Like never. I moved to a place that's
move.
It's 3 times more expensive. I'm literally alone in the state.
Yeah.
Don't get any ideas, any psychopaths or serial killers. I live in a gated and guarded community. You can't get me, and my door is always locked.
And she has 42 cameras in her house.
That's right, suckers. And let it be known, if you ever stay at my house, I don't watch the cameras while I'm there. That makes me, I always feel so weird. I'm like, oh God, let me not have them think I watched while people are there, just to make sure everything's okay while I'm gone. But that's how I've always looked at every situation. I'm like, okay, well, which would I regret more? Doing it or not doing it? Yeah. Would I regret more leaving or staying? And whichever one, and it's a pretty definitive one. I don't look at it as what am I most scared of? What am I most afraid of? It's which one would I regret more? Staying or leaving?
Yeah.
And honestly, like, this sounds fucking terrible. I did the same thing with my engagement. I'm like, oh, which one would I regret more?
Right.
Ending it now and going on with life, or getting married, maybe divorced later. I'm like, oh, that one I'd regret more. Well, shit, this isn't going to work, is it?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many ways to look at it, but that I feel has always kind of kept me going forward.
For sure. Well, we can always make up so many stories in our heads about like this and what about that and what about this and what about this. But if you never do anything, you're never going to grow. You're never going to move past that fear. And so sometimes you just have to say, fuck it, and move forward. I mean, honestly, what's the worst that could have happened? You could have moved back to Missouri.
Like, or just stayed as an artist in DKW. Like,
yeah, like it's not like a life and death situation. So it's just, you have to keep moving and growing. Otherwise, you're just going to stay where you're at.
And some people, they're like, but I like where I'm at. I'm fine. Well, or you're just so afraid to do anything else that you're not actually willing to move forward. Like you just said it, you've become so complacent,
right? And
it becomes it's your comfort zone.
Yeah.
That you're like, well, I'm happy here. I'm content.
Right.
You know, I fucking hate that word.
Yeah.
Content. Just like the word sure. Well, it depends. Is it sure exclamation point or sure period?
Right.
Because sure, I'm like, sure. I'm content.
Yeah. No, honestly, I was working 3.5 days a week, 8-hour days at my old salon, to leave because I was bored to tears, to now working 5, sometimes 12, 14-hour days. And I haven't been happier. Like, it's that sort of thing. Like, I just had to move on. And now, like, I'm not saying it's going to be like this forever, but there's a lot of work that needed to get done inside of DKW. And so I'm kind of feel like I'm in the thick of it right now, but I know that this is not like my forever schedule. And honestly, it's fine.
Yeah. And that's how I feel like I go, because obviously, like, I think you and I are two of the busiest people inside of like these companies, because you're running the salon and I'm running BMS, and with all the trainings, and then Lord, you have all the feelings of all the artists, which I guess I do too on my end, but it's just so much some days that it's kind of never ending. Like, it's just so busy.
Yeah.
But I still go home at the end of the day and I'm like, yeah.
Yes.
Fucking nailed it today.
For sure.
Or sometimes I'm like, you didn't nail it today. You're going to do better tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's fine.
There's always tomorrow.
Yes.
And I think people forget that because everything does seem so do or die, which I realize, yes, I said make it do or die or don't, but I'm saying, like, I tend to put myself in situations where it's like, if you don't fucking hustle and make this work, like, yeah.
Right.
Whoops. Well, that's going to set you a few steps back.
Right.
But that has always lit a fire under me to be like, there's no choice now. You just have to do it.
Yeah. And I think once you do something and you just get a little bit better at it each day, like, you get inspired that, like, it's exciting. You want to keep doing it. Like, it's fuel for your fire. Like, fuck yeah, I'm doing this.
I'm actually fucking doing this.
And I'm getting better at it and I'm loving it. And so if you never do it, like you'll never get to experience those feelings. And that will also hold you back.
Yeah. There's a girl coming to BMS Con 4 and she posted inside of our private network and she's like, why is it that my third and fourth row are worse than my first two? I was like, I'm going to have you consider, just hear me out on this one, that your first two rows were absolutely terrible,
Right.
but because you didn't know any better, you assumed they were great. And now that you've learned more and practiced just barely a smidge more, you're now seeing the contrast and difference and you're like, oops, they weren't great.
Exactly.
And now because you know what to look for because it's wrong,
Right.
you're like, these are terrible when really they are better than what your first two were.
Yeah.
She's like, oh my God, you're so right. I'm like, it's almost like I've been doing this for a minute.
When you first started that story, I was like, what? I think her first problem is that she put 4 rows on one head.
No, she was just practicing.
Got that.
You're like, problem 1, you never have 4 rows. 3 in an illegal. I'm just kidding. Don't do illegal minis. Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah.
If one more person, they're like, can I stick a... I'm like, no, dog ears. You can't fucking stick a weird chunk on the side. It's not cute. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look good.
I'll never forget one of our artists inside the salon. We got certified together and we had just started doing NBR clients, and she had this client come in with a short haircut and her previous hairstylist kept like frying off her bangs. And so the lady was like, I really just want like extensions, like just in like my bang area. And so we were very new. Like we may have not even been certified, like just signed up for the class or something. So like trying to like figure it out ourselves.
Oh, I'm already sweating. I'm like, oh no.
So she's like, oh yeah, like I got you. This is perfect. So she basically did a mini in like the lady's fringe.
Oh no.
And actually, I think we had been taking the class because we were in the network. We were inside Mastermind, and she posted it inside the network. And you or Danielle or someone was like, you can never do that.
I remember this post. And I was straight up like, don't do that again. It will not grow out nice. Terrible idea.
Like, I'm pretty sure she was so proud of, like, her work.
I nailed it. Yeah. And you know what? That to me, it's not even a failure or a win. It's just like hey, well, you tried it. I appreciate you. Don't do that again, though.
Exactly.
It's so funny. But guys, what I really want you to take from this is you don't have to be afraid of failure. It's not failure. Just rework how you actually think about it. You're not failing at something. It's just you learned a lesson.
Yeah.
You learned something that works or you learned something that didn't work. And now next time you get to take that on with you.
Right.
And if you're sitting there, to all of my artists, whether you're inside of Mastermind or you're coming to BMS Con, or maybe you're just a business owner and you know you're ready for the next step, because trust me, you know, whether you avoid those feelings and you push them down farther, it doesn't fucking matter. You know when you're ready for that next move.
Right.
Listen to yourself. And if you're still scared, good. Then ask yourself, which one would I regret more?
Yeah.
Doing it or not doing it? And I can guarantee you, once you ask yourself that, it's a gut instinct
For sure.
of what you need to do.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, we're at the end now. Wow. Such a bummer.
This goes by so fast.
See? I can't wait to do more consultations next week. And they're like, Krystal?
I only have 17 today, so it's fine.
Oh, I don't even know if that number was serious, but I'm wearing a leather jacket. I started sweating immediately. That's so aggressive. Well, guys, thank you for being here with us for the Big Money Stylist podcast, episode number 80.
Woohoo.
Send all your stories to me, Ani, A-N-I, at hairextensionsecret.com. I am obsessed with reading it. And if there's something you want to hear us talk about, because Lord knows we have stories for days. So thank you for listening, and we will see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.